because it's funny, share with you something that Luke wrote to us, and it made us laugh a lot in the office. We were looking through the surveys from our PADF last year, and really Michelle was. She discovered this little gem, and our question was, what could we do to make the conference better next year? And this is what Luke told us. Open with an original choreographed welcome song and dance that's performed by all members of the planning team and includes pyrotechnics, so Rick can help with that, and flashy costumes. Bonus points if Brian has sequins or glitter in his ear. It would be good if there were some sort of animal that could be designated to pull a mascot to that team mascot style costume could be purchased, and someone, Luke, could wear it during his production and go around high-fiving everyone in the audience. So we've discussed a lot, and I'm just going to say there might be some prizes at not this year's CalHart, but the following. It is a 10-year, and we should go big. I can't be promises about the glitter beer. So I am pushing for the glitter beer. That's kind of awesome.
That's what Luke suggested, for us to make it better.
Good suggestion.
Yeah, it caused a lot of back and forth emails among the team. So anyway, why don't we get started then? Help desk, you're first. So what would you like to talk about?
Just remind everyone about the holiday break that we have coming up, after hours support. Just limited. We'll have somebody logging in every day, just a couple times just to check. See if the emails are coming in or voicemails are coming in. For emergencies, extreme emergency is basically outage. Courses are offline. You have something going on. That's the technology support after hours number. You'll get a voicemail. You leave a voicemail to create a ticket in our system, which sends a text to half our tech team. So we can log in and get that.
Please leave a voicemail.
Yes. Emergency.
An emergency.
Outage.
Yes.
That a student can't log in to do the one course. So just remind everyone about that.
And we just heard from Edison today, actually. Many of you probably are aware that Friday is having some issues. They're targeting a fix today at about 2 p.m., but there's no downtime required, so students shouldn't be logged out. Just be a quick, seamless process. That's around 2. I'm sure we'll probably send something out when it goes live.
Okay. So we're going to move on to general information. We have a new staff member to announce. Erin Clark is our new account manager. So last month when we met, I told you we were posting, going to be hiring, and we're very excited to have Erin join us. If you recall from past conferences, Erin has always worked closely with the COLA team. We've worked together since I've been here 8 years, but he was also our MC at the conferences, if you remember that, and he has a side business of being a DJ, so he's always very good at that. But he's now joining our team as soon as his replacement is found, because he was Brian Griffith's administrative assistant. So Brian will release him once he gets an assistant. So right now he's helping out a little bit, but once we will be working through a transition. And Brian, Erin, what would you like to say?
I just want to say hi to everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I'm excited to be joining the COLA team and help continue to grow this great program. So thank you all, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from me sometime in the near future.
Thank you. And we will have, or it could be already posted. I haven't checked the website, but it is not. Okay. It will be posted soon. We will be looking for a new advisor. This is a new position, partly to cover Hillary Williams' maternity leave. So this person will be taking over West Shore and Big Spring. Sorry, Brian, I'm not trying to insinuate anything there.
I'm not being
No. There's a reason why Brian's with you. West Perry and Big Spring, as well as taking on East Pennsboro. And we have a spot for one more school. And it will continue to grow, but that new position will be posted soon. So if you know of anybody who would like to join the COLA team, please encourage them to apply. I will make sure that the salary is posted, because people always ask me about that. And just pass the word. We're expanding and growing, which is a fantastic thing to be able to continue to grow and support everybody. So invoicing, Nyla, would you like to update?
We are currently working very thoroughly with invoicing. You should probably hear from us, I'm hoping, mid-January. We're crossing fingers and hoping things run smoothly. Don't call us, we'll call you. No, but we have a great team. We're all working very diligently. We actually are cornering ourselves all week this week, so hopefully we can get it underway and things run smoothly. Knock on wood.
And please remember that Nyla and Michelle will send out what we call them draft invoices, and then we give you a deadline to look it over, get back to us if there's changes that need to be made, and then it becomes final. Once it's final, we can't make adjustments until the next round of invoicing, so please take the time. We know when the invoice is officially sent to you from our business office, it's teeny tiny and hard to read. There's nothing we can do about that. We don't know why that happens, but we can't control that on our end. That's why we send you a digital copy through a Dropbox link. But if you ever have questions about invoicing, please contact Nyla. She'll be happy to help her. This is her responsibility that she is taking over. But you shouldn't have any questions. They do a very good job of making sure you're billed correctly.
Is everybody else's invoice huge? Like I can't even send it to anybody.
Yeah, that's normal. Yeah.
It's a
That's why we
spreadsheet.
have to do Dropbox.
It's just a spreadsheet then.
I know, but it has
Big deal.
tons and tons of formulas in it. That's why, yeah. I wish there's a better way. What we are doing, we have like a couple phased plans. First phase is that we're having an application developed for us internally that will help us make invoicing faster. But I have future plans and future phases where this application is where you could go in and pull your invoice out. But that's a couple years down the road. So phase one is helping us internally because invoicing is very, very cumbersome and detailed. And Chris, it just has to do with these, there's a bunch of formulas in there, and that's why it's hard to send it through email. Okay. PAEF. So we are really well underway of going forward with PAEF. Our numbers are looking fantastic. We are close to selling out, which is rare that we have not ever gotten close to that. So please, if you haven't registered, please do so. Our deadline for registration cutoff is February 16th. Good, it's on there. That is strict. We cannot have anybody register after that, and you also must cancel your registration by February 16th, or you can incur the cost of the entire conference. In years past, our meeting planners helped us with that, and we haven't really had to charge anybody, but I can't guarantee that from year to year. The hotel charges us, and then in turn, we have to charge for lost costs if you cancel after the 15th. We still are looking for model schools. Thank you, Bermuda Springs. I knew that if I went to your superintendent, he would put one in. There's a calculated thing I did there. You're welcome. Yep. So we have Bermuda Springs put one in from this region. That's the only one so far. So if you're still interested in having a model school presentation, please fill it out. We're shutting it down this Friday. So please fill out the model schools if you're interested. And we're really looking for model programs. It's not necessarily the whole school like we've done in the past, but maybe you do one thing really well at your school that you would like to share out because you really worked it out. We still need student presenters. We need 3 more. And it's a really nice situation. The students are going to get an overnight room for their family. They get the water park tickets. In exchange, all we're asking is for them to sit on a student panel for 1 hour and have adults ask them questions. It's pretty harmless. And we're all there, and you know we're going to be nice to the kids. So really, it's a nice little event for them. So 3 more are needed. And we still need online teachers. In fact, nobody has come forward for an online teacher panel. I can go to the vendors. They will be more than happy to sit on a panel. But I'd really like to have some local teachers on the panel as well because their perspective is unique.
I thought you volunteered me last time.
Well, you didn't fill it out. So maybe if I go to your Dr. Hotchkiss, it'll happen.
I'll fill that out.
Okay. I mean, even if we just had 2, the panel is for 6. So even if we just had 2 local teachers, I think that would be a nice change. And we have an Edison teacher here. I know they'd be more than happy to sit on the panel, but I'd like to get some local ones in. And we definitely need more breakout sessions. We do not have enough yet to fill out the conference. I know that people kind of wait till the last minute, but I'm urging you. You probably aren't going to do anything today or the next day or the day after, but maybe when you come back from break, think about something that you could do a breakout on. And don't think that you have to be the leader of the breakout. Maybe you want to have a breakout on a topic that could be an open discussion, and you're just the facilitator of that discussion. It doesn't have to be where you're in front of the audience with the PowerPoint talking about what you did. If you need ideas or want to bounce ideas off of me or Brian, feel free to. We can guide you, but we really would like to see some more breakout sessions. Any questions about PAEF 18? Please sign up. It's free. This is one of these things that we love to do for all of our districts, and it really benefits those that have gone in years past. Have always walked away with oh, I skipped one. Curriculum review. Thanks. Okay, I'll go back to that. People have always walked away with new ideas. And bring a team. That's always a benefit too. Then you can break up and go to different breakouts and come back together. Aaron reminded me that I skipped the curriculum review update. I don't think there's too much from last month. We met and we are moving forward with Edison, Apex, Accelerate Ed, and we're looking at Odyssey, where that would be the only new vendor. When we went through it, we were very, very thorough. And like I said last time, it was really refreshing to know that we are literally and honestly using the best online curriculum that exists, which is really nice to say. I always thought it, but until you go back through and dig deep again, it is refreshing to know that that is honestly what we are doing. So I'm very proud of that. We're looking at Odysseyware just as another option. There's no decisions made yet. So the next round is January 22nd. I've reached out to 2 school districts that have been with us for a long time to see if they want to sit on this committee. I've heard back from one. I haven't heard back from the other, so I'm going to bug them again. If you're interested, let me know, because we're all bringing 2 schools from each IU. We don't want the committee to get too big, but it will be January 22nd, and we're going to be at IU 13, and that's going to be another round that we're looking at. But as of right now, it doesn't look like we'll be making too many major changes for next school year. All right. Brian.
So just a couple things with Genius. Just a reminder again to clean up your 16-17 enrollments. We looked last week, and there's still a couple floating out there. Again, it's just data. We need that cleaned up. All those enrollments should be completed by now. So just double check. Michelle's going to go through after the break and remove them if they're still out there. The other thing, couple enhancements that we're working on with Genius. The username and password for Guardians is now going to be on the student info page under Guardian account. Right now, if you look at it, it just has the Guardian username. If you want to look for the password, you have to go to administration, find user. So we're going to add that, so that'll be helpful to you guys. We did increase the log out time to an hour. So you may have noticed that, you can step away from Genius and come back and you're still signed in, whereas in the past you'd be signed out almost like right away. We're adding a timestamp to the transcripts. This is something we had in the past and we took it away, but now we're putting it back on. So you'll see course info on the transcripts of when the student was enrolled out of the course and stuff like that.
And let me pause you for and remember, these transcripts do not replace what you issue at the school. And we even put that disclaimer on the transcript. So, because sometimes parents will say, well, the transcript has this grade, but the school gave me that. It says on there's language saying that the school issues the final transcript and has final authority over grades. I don't remember the exact words, but it's something like that. It's just a feature of Genius. So we put the timestamp back in by district request. I think we took it away by district request, but it's back, and it's going to stay this time.
And the other one I wanted to bring up to you guys' attention is when enrolling in courses, the end date will stay that you put in. That's an enhancement we're working on. We don't have a timetable for it, so when you put the start date, it stays. But when you put the end date, when you go to enroll in another class, the end date defaults back out to 20 weeks or whatever. Now it'll stay at the end date that you selected.
And we have a couple more.
Change the end dates? We can still change the
We
end
still change
dates.
the end dates, yeah.
Yeah. Later.
Yeah.
It's just every time kids are
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to change that every time. Yep. It's a good
It's just
feature.
upon when you're enrolling in a course, that end date will stay like the start date stays that you initially put in. Whereas now, if you do it, the end date defaults to 20 weeks or whatever. We have a couple others we're working on, but we'll give you more information after the holiday break on those.
We have a really, really exciting report that is going to blow your minds when it's all done, but it's a secret till it's ready. I don't want to reveal it, but you're going to be excited and you're going to say, this is what I needed all along. So when you see it, you'll be happy. Yes.
Has there been any discussion about, we brought it up the last time, where when we click a kid to have adapted answers, that it moves with the kid through all the parts, instead of just having to go back and do it for like Algebra 1, Part 1, I click adapted answers, and then in Part 2, I got to go back in and click it. These kids with IEPs we've talked about, is it possible that you do it once and it stays?
It's still being looked into.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as the being able to enroll in the next part with the click. That's being worked on with Edison, so it's still being worked on. We would love to have that. It's just on a roadmap.
It's at least
Soon.
being discussed.
It is being discussed. Absolutely, yeah. Some things just take longer than others.
Yep.
And some things are Genius and some things are Edison side. And so Edison will be releasing soon. There's a nice roadmap coming up ahead that's going to address some of our long-awaited wish lists. So when they can share that with me, I'll share it with all of you. But we've had some deep meetings in the last 2 weeks of getting some of our backlog taken care of. Anything that you would like done in Genius, speak up now. Like, Genius can do a lot for us, but we need your suggestions, to tell us what you would like to see differently. All these enhancement changes came from districts asking for it. So, Luke.
The student main page, I don't know, personally, I think it'd be nice if there was a button near the top for email student rather than having it on the list down near the bottom.
Okay.
'Cause I do that a lot.
Yeah.
It's nice to just go to the kid and then
Have it maybe both places. One thing that we are talking about, the best way for me to explain Genius is think of like a Lego set where you can pick up something and put it over here. So we have talked about reorganizing Genius to make more sense. And some schools have felt like where you go for one thing, it just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't it be under student? Or that is something we're talking about, but we don't want to do it without district input because it's going to affect you. And I could see somebody going, well, I used to go there, and where's it at? So it really is going to be a bigger discussion, but we can reorganize it to make a more cohesive flow. That
With
makes
what
sense.
Luke just said there, I'm not sure exactly what he was asking, but what about when we click our student list? We have all this other information listed there. Could we potentially have a click on that student, their email there? Where if I want to email student X and it's on that big long list of all my kids, I can click it instead of going into the individual student and then having to find the email.
Do you understand what he's saying?
better. Yeah, I changed mine to what he said.
Okay. Yeah, we can have, nice thing is we meet with Genius tomorrow, so this is something we can bring up. I set aside budgeted money for Genius enhancements. I do it every year. So all of these requests come with $1, but we set aside, we budgeted for these type of requests. So as long as it can be done in Genius, it can be done.
Another one.
Christmas time, so wish away.
Yeah, like when you look at the enrollments, well, when you go on the student main page, there's like the left, right buttons that you can go from student to student.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay on that main page. Like when you're cleaning up enrollments and things, it'd be nice if you could actually go into a student enrollment page and then just bop back and forth between students that way,
Okay.
rather than having to like go back to your list, click the next kid, or go back to the main page, click the arrow to the next kid, kind of.
Under the current enrollments have that feature.
Say that again.
Under their current enrollments.
Yeah, like under the, or just, I mean, any of those pages you go to for the student, just have like the back and, but I think the current enrollments is when I usually wish I had it, so I could just like clear out this kid, hit next, clear out that kid, hit next, kind of.
Okay, we will look into that. See how easy it is? Any other wishes? Now's the time, feeling like Santa.
I'm going to direct this more towards the help desk, I think. I put in a ticket, and I think I understood the explanation this week about when I use log days and assignments completed report, there was something about it's not counting the number of lessons when it was submitted, or I misunderstood that piece, but I'm just wanting it to where I click on that, and when that kid submitted it and I run that report, that it shows up completed.
Yeah, that's something we could talk about. So the way it tracks it now is if you submit an assignment, like an open-ended assignment on like today, the 19th, and it gets graded tomorrow, and you pull something for the 19th today, if it was graded on the 20th, it won't appear because it goes by the graded date rather than the submitted date. So that's probably something we could discuss, but like, you know, for your multiple choice like assessments, that's all graded same time. So that's, yeah, that works easily, but it's the ones that are open-ended that.
I'm not sure what other districts feel, but like for us, with our attendance, it's the number of lessons they complete each week. So when that kid hits submit, that's when we need to know that it's in there.
That would be nice, because now what I do is I go into Edison and I count all those assignments that are still waiting to be graded.
Yeah, I've got to do that too.
I think that'd be
Okay, let's bring it up tomorrow.
Edison and
Is there a way,
Genius is just pulling.
Yeah, it's an
Edison's in-
API.
Yeah.
way when you log in, we do the same way. You go into each kid, count the lessons. Is there a way that we could get just the total number overall at the bottom of that screen that would automatically count the ones that they're enrolled in? So instead of calculating each class, opening it, seeing the overall number, if there was just one number at the bottom that included all the completed lessons, we could just open that kid and there the number would be.
Fullware.
You're wanting Genius.
It's the actual login to the kid.
Yeah.
And we go through the same way. We go log in every kid, go every class to count the lessons to make sure that we count the lessons not graded.
Well, if it was put in the report where it was
that would
submitted, then you
work.
could run the report and it, what is it here, log?
Yeah, it would do it for you.
It doesn't.
That would be fine too, but either way.
Log of days and assessments, yep.
Okay, we'll find out. Anything else? Okay. Well, like I said, we meet with Genius tomorrow, so we'll see what can be built. And we also meet with Edison tomorrow, so sometimes it's a combination of talking to both. All right, we're gonna move. And now I do want to say we do have some training for you today, so it's more towards the bottom of the agenda. But we're gonna move on to Edison, and just to let you know that the honors courses 1 through 3 are live, and we're hopefully crossing our fingers that the part 4s will be available this week. We were told before the holiday break, so that's this week. And then on here too, you can see there's a Dropbox link for all the course objectives with parts 3 and 4 of honors included. Can you click on that? Right there.
Whoops. So here's 1 through 4 honors. Then here's English 4 honors. Of course, objectives.
Sometimes people look at those or need them to compare courses to see if it has what you need. I've had people ask, well, what's the difference between the honors and the competency or the project-based? They can use this to look through the differences. Any questions about Edison? Okay. So for Accelerate Ed, earlier this month, I sent out an end of course procedure document. I sent that out just because sometimes people are a little confused. I know we have procedures for Edison and we have different ones for Accelerate Ed. And the person I was talking to kind of merged the two together, and it was clear that they were a little confused. So I asked Accelerate Ed to give us an official document that I could share out, and we have that attached. But basically, if you didn't read it, in a nutshell, when it's a week or so from the end date that you've put in Genius, which pushes through to Accelerate Ed, you should get an email from the online teacher stating the end date is coming soon. You then have the opportunity to extend the end date if you want the student to have more time to work. If you do not extend the end date on that last day, the teacher is going to grade out the course, put zeros in for grades for lessons not achieved, and finalize the grade with zero communication to you. The difference with Edison is you have to give approval of that final grade. Accelerate Ed closes out that course. You will then, up until now you weren't getting it, but you should be getting it now, you will then get a report emailed to you from the teacher saying this, it's a final grade report. So those are the procedures for Accelerate Ed. Just remember, if you don't extend that end date, then the course is going to be graded out. And we will be talking about the best practice of struggling students when we do the training later on, so I'm going to skip over that right now. And the only update for Apex is just to remind you of their hard start and end dates. We talked about last month. Just wanted to remind you about that, especially because the next time we meet will be around the second semester. And again, we'll talk about the supporting struggling students next.
And if you enroll a student in an Apex course now, they won't be able to start till January.
Make sure you know your deadlines, and we have it posted as an attachment. If you want, can you click on that? We have a course extension document, but I'll tell you it is very rare that Apex gives course extensions, so make sure that you use it sparingly because it's not often that they'll allow it.
And yes, it says 2016-17 up here, but if you scroll down here at the bottom of the page starts this school year. So right now, January 1st is the next time you can have students start.
And notice you have to enroll it by the 27th.
Yeah. So I know I had a school contact me last week or yesterday. They enrolled a student on the 15th to start Monday. I'm like, well, they won't be able to start now till January 1st because you missed the cutoff for Monday.
Make sure that we're just reminding you. Most of you know this, but still, it's a good reminder since the new semester is coming up. So you always have to make sure you follow the second column for the start date of the first column. Okay, so Brian and Nyla are going to talk to you about supporting struggling learners. The last time you guys were here, we did a little Kahoot, and this was a topic that you wanted more information on. So I've tasked them with putting this together, and we also asked an Edison teacher. They were here for our Equity and Excellence series, and I asked him if he could come down here and also talk about supporting struggling students in e-schooler. So I'm going to hand it over to the two of them.
So I put the notes in the vendor because I figured it made sense that way. So if you need to go back, you need to look at Accelerate, you can look at Accelerate instead of actually putting it in under the training. But I can move them there as well. Just a couple tidbits about Accelerate Ed. And I don't think this really applies to anyone here, but you have K through third grade students taking Accelerate Ed courses. The teacher is to contact them weekly. So make sure that is happening. Teachers will reach out to struggling students, but it's actually up to the student to seek tutoring. So keep that in mind. And teachers are available for tutoring. The best way to contact them, and I'm going to switch screens here. Just give me a minute.
So while you do that, I'll talk to you. So for some of the struggling students, one of the big things that we see in our Genius is they don't even have an advisor assigned to them. And I mean, personally, I think that's unacceptable to have a student in our program that doesn't have an adult assigned to them. So I'm going to start looking at ways to make that a mandatory step. With our staff, they've sent out emails saying there's no advisor assigned to the student. That means the students are working and there's no adult monitoring them. That's not okay with this program. So we're going to start looking at how we can make that mandatory. I don't think it happens with this group as much, but our program's 107 districts wide now. So we're seeing it enough that it's concerning to me to have these students just sitting there and nobody's watching over them and helping them. Another area that we see students are struggling is if they're full-time, they may not have the support at home and they need the adult support. Some of the schools we work with bring those students in once a week or every other week to meet with an adult and do a little bit one-on-one or counseling. Those areas, when a student knows that there's an adult holding them accountable, they tend to do better. I know that I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer, but we're seeing students not being supported, so I want to bring that up. Remember, they're teenagers, and you can lead them to the water, and you can't make them drink, and not just the teenagers, but the elementary families as well. So sometimes we have to go above and beyond to force them to get help. With Accelerate Ed, you know, if somebody isn't telling the teacher that there needs tutoring, unfortunately, they're not reaching out proactively out to the students. I know the Edison Learning teachers do. It's just a difference with our vendors and their models. So Brian, there, I filled in while you were looking.
Thank you. So one way the student can email the teacher is through their page in Genius. They click on course information. The teacher's email address will appear here. That's one way, so they can directly email them. The other way is obviously within the course.
And this also only works if the student's email address is correct.
Yes.
Which is another area that we are challenged with. And I know that you don't always know if their email address is correct. I understand that.
So they would go to the envelope here, click on send mail, and this will send an email directly to the teacher. The other thing I wanted to go over with everyone, and I go over this during training, is in the course, Accelerate Ed has a built-in like help section, and it's under the resources and the getting started. Make sure your students go through this because it shows them how to submit work, how to contact their teacher, how to navigate through the course. It's kind of like Edison's version of
The orientation.
the orientation. So this getting started, you know, it's 10 slides. It's easy for the kids to click right through it, but it's got a lot of useful information. So, you know, really stress upon them the importance of taking their time through this.
Now, one thing we are working with Accelerate Ed is they are going to create this into an actual course that students must take. So we are working with them because if they don't click on this, they're not going to get the information. So they're working on building us a course that forces the students to work through it and makes it mandatory. And we're hoping that will be available in January, February, we're hoping. So that kind of solves one of the problems with Accelerate Ed. Sometimes it's just student navigation. And the unfortunate part of that is the communication between a teacher and a student we can't see because then it happens on an outside email. So we're a little blind to the communication aspect.
But we have been on them to kind of rein that in so we can see it. I don't know.
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
So that's what we have for Accelerate Ed. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that you would like to see? Because Accelerate Ed is willing to work with us. They've put a lot of time into what they're doing now. And, you know, we'd love to give them some feedback. All right, Apex. Again, the best thing with Apex is that the mentor will allow a regrade after the course has been closed, or the mentor can ask the teacher for a regraded assignment after the course is closed. In here, most of our Apex students are APs students, so they should be doing their work. But, you know, there's always that possibility. The course extension form, I do have it attached here. And like Holly mentioned earlier, it's very lengthy and it's very rare that Apex will extend a course. You know, they're kind of by the book and
they have to go with the College Board and the AP status that they've achieved. It's much more stricter because they want the students to be able to take the AP test, so they can't give them too much an extension because then they won't be prepared for the AP test. So it's understandable. It just makes it, we're so used to extreme flexibility that it makes it a little more difficult with the APs.
And then the other thing I have some notes here is that the mentor can update the activity report. So if you do have a student falling behind, instead of them seeing, you know, all those assignments they've missed, you can go in here through the Excel download tool in Apex and update that to kind of like a pacing guide for the student to redo it. So if you guys have any questions with that, just let me know and I can give you a little bit more detailed information. That's what I had for Apex. I know, you know, not one of our biggest users and most of the students are AP students, so they shouldn't be really that far behind or struggling.
The biggest struggle that I see with the AP students is that people assume because they're AP students that they're going to be fine online learners, and I see that doesn't always happen. I've seen students that were enrolled in AP and then they are just left to float along on their own, and they then fall really far behind because it's just given, oh, they're AP and they're super smart and they're going to be great. Please don't assume that with your AP learners. Take the time to show them through Apex, give them a little bit of a foot up to get them started, and then they should be fine. And we meet with Apex at least once a month, and they show us these reports, and we can see the students that are struggling or have never logged in. We've seen some where their students haven't logged in for 15 weeks. Well, where's the adult in that scenario? And your school paid for that course. So we hate seeing that happen, that there's some kid out there the course has been charged, the school's paid for it, and the kid's never even logged in. And we have all that information in Genius. So please let us know how we can help you, you know, work with those AP students. Just don't assume that they're going to be fine. Make sure that you help them at the beginning, and then they actually are. They do a great job.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Apex is they have all those videos too right in the system. So it's not like you have to go outside the system to find help. You know, it's all right there.
Yeah. So we asked Zach from Edison to join us. He's an online teacher, and him and I, we've worked together for several years now too. And we just wanted him to give you some ideas about how to support the struggling students and what you guys do in the Pittsburgh office, and any tips for all the advisors around the table. Maybe some things that they might not have known about. You know, I know that you guys have some new tutoring schedules, and I'll let you take over.
So I'll give you a little bit of background. I've been teaching asynchronous education for a little over 4.5 years now. So I get the struggle. I understand like some of the ins and outs of it. I'm instructional at heart. I'm the social studies department chair. You might see my name floating around with the newsletters we've been sending out. For me, it's always been about building relationship with students, and hopefully that turning into them reaching out to us to ask for help. I have a million tip sheets that I could share with you all and a lot of resources, but I know that we all have our individual struggles with our individual students. So I kind of want to get an idea as to what are some of like the universal struggles that you all are dealing with. Are there any major universal struggles that, man, I really wish I could do this, or I wish eSchoolware did that, or?
I think I've always heard from people, they wish they could get the kids to go to tutoring. And I
Right.
hear from you guys, you wish the students would go to tutoring.
Right.
So that's our
Right.
biggest struggle, I think, is getting the kids to get the help they need.
And I think so there's like two things that really stick out. And asynchronous programs work when there's accountability and communication, right? And sometimes a lot of that gets lost, I think, where we're communicating with a student and the advisors are communicating with the student. The student isn't really reciprocating that communication back to us. I was looking at my messages, and I have sent 12,000 messages and I've received 3,000 messages. Okay, and that's including your non-running totals. Okay, so just let that sink in for a second, right? I've sent 12,000 messages in my Kayola server in the past 3 or 4 years, and I've received 3,000 back, and that's including all of your messages as well. So it is quite. When we get a student respond to like our newsletter or something, we're all jumping for joy, like, yay, that's a success. We're building a relationship with that kid. And so there's creative ways that we try to use to engage our students. But what I see for the most part is the onboarding process is so important. When a new student is coming in, and I'm just going to throw out numbers, or maybe I shouldn't, because I don't want to generalize, but a lot of these students, this is kind of this is a last resort for them. This online learning is like, okay, let's try asynchronous online education. And that's not for everybody, but for a lot of these students. And then they get into a situation where they literally don't have to respond to their teachers or their advisors. They don't have to. Nobody's really holding them accountable to respond back. So they don't. I mean, there's students. I mean, that's really frustrating for us too. I mean, I know that, we're staffed to engage our students. We really are. We're staffed to be tutoring. We're staffed to be providing feedback on every question. We're staffed to be answering messages from them. So really that, for me, the onboarding and modeling what it looks like, and I know that you're using different Apex and Edison, and eSchoolware is a little different from each one, so it's hard to keep all that track. But really modeling for students in an onboarding package, I think would go a long way. And I don't know if we utilize those. Our most successful programs, students are set up with, this is how you message your teacher, this is the expectations from the school district, this is our grading policy, this is our everything's outlined in a package up front for the student, coupled with screenshots of actually how to go and walk through these things. And I can show you, I'd be more than happy to share that with you, some of our like onboarding documents and things like that, just to model. And every school district's different. We all have our different policies and procedures. So the main thing is reach out to the teachers, because I mean, we're always willing to help. And I think really holding account, I always like to use the analogy like with local government, and like I'm a social studies teacher, so this is where I go, right? Local government's best at handling local problems, right? You don't want the federal government fixing your potholes down the street.
I tell my teachers this all the time. You know, the school districts, they have those students, they understand those students. So when they make a decision, you know, we need to carry that out and follow through with that because they're local and we're local too. And I consider myself a local part to that student's education. So there's that communication lapse too between us and the school districts, which I really think is something that's extremely important.
Could you talk about some of your teachers now are having scheduled drop-in tutorings? Like I think there's math at 1 o'clock. Can you elaborate on that?
So we have office hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
8 to 8.
And they are our teachers. So between 8 and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, there's a math, English, social studies, and a science teacher. Foreign languages by appointment, and then there's a 2-hour window. And I think that do you have access to our office hours? Mm-hmm. And so are you asking about like a pre-scheduled session?
Yeah, I think that the Carly mentioned that the math teachers are doing some specific at 2 o'clock on a specific topic type of stuff now too.
I know that social studies isn't doing that, so I don't know if I can speak to the exact times, but what they are doing is they're picking objectives and standards that majority of students should be at in a normal pacing, and they're picking the most important topics to have synchronous sessions, live sessions for students.
And they're recording them because we know at 2 o'clock not all students are available to come, but they are recording them. So they're trying to fill in some of those gaps. So these students that just aren't going to tutoring, but they need it. They're doing whatever they can to help.
Right.
Are you guys putting in the students' notes if they do attend a tutoring session?
Yes.
At all?
Yes, that's standard for us at this point, that if a student comes in for tutoring, we're putting it in the notes. Should be, at least. If they're not, let the department chairs know or that.
That onboarding course that you talk about, is that a course that exists that can be made for each district? Is that something that we would make for our district? How does that work? I know that PA Cyber offers that. We actually had a transfer student talk about it. And I think that would go so far in students understanding that we do offer tutoring, that they need to communicate with their teacher to be able to take advantage of that, so on and so forth.
Well, we do have the orientation course that is, you have to enroll the student in, and it covers a lot of I don't know if it covers tutoring though. We'd have to relook at the scope and sequence, and we just got it recently. So
Cyber Essentials?
Yeah, the Cyber Essentials, but it's named something else now.
Is it?
In my head, it's always Cyber Essentials, but it got renamed.
Yeah.
And it never stuck.
And I'll be honest with you, it is helpful. There are some things in there that are very helpful, but it's not it's not comprehensive in the fact that there's accountability in it, right? And I think like modeling is so important for students. And I feel like a lot of times in asynchronous education, we're not really modeling for the student what it looks like. We have some districts that are actually bringing students in when they are onboarded, or this is their first time using online education. They actually have students come in and physically practice going into the research center and PMing a teacher. They have students practicing sending a message. I'll get messages from students saying, "Hi, I'm John from whatever school district. My advisor asked me to reach out to my social studies teacher and tell you a little bit about myself." And that's great because we don't get that kind of information. So, a lot of times we don't understand what's going on at the local level, at the school district level, to be able to fill in the gaps with our feedback and our responses and our messages. So I think modeling is huge. And unfortunately, we can't always get the students to respond to us to model for them, right? So we can send out a million messages, but until they're responding, asking us, this is what I need, this is what I want, we can't really give it to them. So, if you have students, modeling is huge. This is how you do it. This is how you walk through it. And then checking in with them is always good. Like I said, we can't be more, we should be as accountable, they should be as accountable to us as we can make them.
And I think too, what we could do, Jen, and I know Adam, you have a question, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying. So that Cyber Essentials course, I don't remember how many lessons. I think there's 8, and the student, and the student has to pass that to unlock their other courses. But why don't we, Brian and I, it's been a while since we've looked at it because Edison created that for us based on districts' opinions. It was years ago. Let's look at that because maybe one of the assessments can be that the student has to email the teacher and the teacher has some feature that can unlock that assessment, done. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we could put some more in there, because I think the assessments are more like open-ended. In fact, I know they are. Like, do you know how to do this? Like, they could easily guess and move on.
They're
So
not teacher graded.
they're not
They're
teacher graded.
system graded, so it's very easily clicked through.
Correct. They have to pass
which-
each lesson with an 80% to move on, but still,
Yeah. And
we could put more rigor into it.
but that's another issue. The click through thing is a big issue with online learners. And I think that we all can agree with that. That there's a lot of students that really aren't interacting with the content and curriculum. They're getting to the assessment and taking the assessment. And there's some, you know, my dream for online education, to be honest with you, is that we make the assessments so hard that they have to interact with the text, that they can literally, like, I would rather like teach them how to cheat and let them cheat and just pull the text up and have an assessment there that makes them interact with the textbook. I think that would increase our time in system. It would increase our learning. It would push students. You know, for the struggling learner, when you have, you know, putting myself in their shoes, if I were given this program and I learned that, well, nobody's really holding me accountable, I can click through, get the assessment, and do it. You know, what's making me go in there and interact and change my behavior? So, you know, for me, it's a lot of engagement, a lot of just trying to get students to realize that I'm a human being and not a computer. And then trying to interact with them on deeper levels with the curriculum eventually.
Who feels that they have a successful, like, onboarding procedures that they feel has worked, that you could share with the group? Does anybody pull the kids together? Adam, go ahead. Yeah, you've been wanting to ask something.
Now, I mean, I don't know if we quote unquote call it successful, but it seems to be working. Is that this year we modeled off of one of the model schools from last year, and every time a student enrolls for the first time, we bring them in for 2 days into the cyber classroom where they have either myself or another teacher who actually is running some of our course or some of the courses here in there, and we walk them through. Basically, it's about an hour and a half orientation of how to log in, do their work, check it. Now, the tutoring is not something we go over, and something we probably should look into. But I know that when we have the kids come in and walk them through that, usually after the first day they're pretty good. The second day we're answering any follow-up questions, and we've had very little issues moving forward this year with kids having problems other than the whole iPad fiasco that was earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But
Thank you. I was hopefully you're going to bring that up again, because you know you do it every meeting. So
it's my
but
job.
It's not solved yet, is it?
Not totally.
Yeah.
No, we're still having some scrolling issues. So, but I had some questions about this cyber and digital citizenship class. I've never heard of that before. So, curious on how many lessons. Curious on what the cost is.
It's free.
Free. Okay. And does it have in there where it walks you through how to do the tutoring? Because if that's in there, that's something that, I mean, now that it's free, I would like to potentially add to my orientation, where the kids have to come in, take those lessons, learn how to do the system on top of what I walk them through.
So we need to do a better job, clearly, of reminding people about the cyber.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's only my second year. I don't know if anybody else knew about it. But
Okay. So that's something that we should be bringing up, you know, at least once a year to remind people that we have it. Because in your case, staff turnover, and we rely on those before you to tell you. It is free. It is a course. So what the intention of it, before Genius, thinking way back, it was a automatic. If you created a student in eSchoolware in the Edison system, the student was automatically enrolled. You didn't have to do anything to it. They were automatically put in that course. And that then locked down that they couldn't start assessments in their other courses. They could look, but they couldn't do the assessment until they passed their Cyber Essentials within 80%. When we switched to Genius, we weren't able to have that automatic enrollment, but the course is in there, so you have to physically enroll them into the Digital Citizenship and Cyber Essentials, and it still locks down their other courses. It's like the forced progression type of scenario, but it's free. It's like we're saying, it's all auto-graded, so it doesn't even need a teacher to grade it. but I'm pretty sure it covers tutoring, but we'll make sure. Because like I said, it's been a couple years since it doesn't, so.
I can give you the lessons. There's 17 lessons. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
It's navigating eSchoolware, navigating Course Player, navigating traditional view. Successful students, note-taking skills, online etiquette, lesson structure, assignments and uploading documents, avoiding plagiarism, introduction to internet safety, what uploaded content says about you, preventing identity theft, how predators contact students, cyberbullying, legal ethics, privacy guidelines, identifying plagiarism.
Is that the right one?
Critically evaluating resources.
Yeah, because that's the one that got renamed. So it's a little longer than, but it also includes, that meets your, I think it's FCC requirements to provide digital citizenship to students. We mixed a little bit into that, but we definitely need to make sure there's tutoring.
Well, I think, there might be, the reason why it might not be in here is because some students don't have access to the Research Center and Learning Land, right? So it's not a universal thing that
Our students all do. They should. But what's
even even some of the placement students that we have.
okay? We do have a few schools that wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And I have help documents that I'd be very happy to share about getting into the Research Center Learning Land. I could send them.
So how could we? No, Carol, go ahead, because I don't want to.
Well, because of the we have 95 kids in the system, and I already am a principal at a school and a principal online. We don't have many people who are staff for Keola. We require that citizenship class.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Correct.
And we do not load any other courses until that's done.
Good.
It takes 2 days for kids to do it.
Okay. Good to know.
And so we feel very secure about it after they take it, because then we see that they're able to navigate.
Yeah.
So credit for that?
No.
No.
I said it has no credit with it.
Yeah.
But you are required to do this so you can navigate the courses.
So why don't? Well, one takeaway I can do is when we meet with Edison tomorrow with more than just Zach, talk about how we can better address getting the message out about tutoring. I know that the teachers post tutoring hours, but maybe there's more that we can do.
I have found that the Edison teachers do a fantastic job in their introduction to the students. So when the kids click into a course, when they're first enrolled on the dashboard, they get a, hi, my name's Mr. Simmons, I'm your social studies teacher, and here's a little bit about myself. You can watch this video about me. And if you need help, this is, there's like 800 number, and there's a link to, like, there's all that information is there. I don't know what percentage of the time, I don't know if that's an Edison requirement, but it seems to me it's there like 90% of the time for the kids when they open up that class. What I'm not sure of is the kids, if the kids know how to get back to that information once they're in the course content.
So that should be a course introduction announcement, and it should be accessible through their course player.
Shouldn't it also be in the announcement from the upper?
Right. Yeah, those are typically our course intro announcements.
Does it stay there? I don't know if
it does. The course
there.
intro announcement will stay there
I wanna
until
get
the
more
end date, which we usually set. We usually go
Curious.
August to August. So it's just, it's there for the entire course.
If they can have something there where
It should be accessible.
I find that it's there for the kid. Like, I don't know.
I think one thing we could do a better job is sending that stuff, that like a
I like
check-in
clicking the X.
Because I want to get
periodically through the school year too.
But it is good that they
well.
get to know their teachers.
I had a thought and I just left.
Yeah.
So, yes.
With that, when the pop-up screen where they're explaining who they are and meet me, I don't know, is there any way that maybe I'm guilty of this, and I know my kids are big time. That pops up and, oh, that's meet your teacher. Click the X. I don't want to read this, and I want to get started. And that's not any offense to the teachers, but is there a way maybe in that where we can have, you can't get into it, you can't X me out until you click this other link that takes you to this tutoring or even this introduction video where I can, in 2 to 3 minutes,
where you have your teacher videos.
that's,
So
you know,
and
That's a good.
on our portal, on every student's portal, and I believe there is in the other information box, there is like help links and things like that to click and meet the teachers.
that
They just don't.
they just don't
They
click
just
it.
don't do it.
So, yeah,
It's part
I
of the
mean,
challenge.
Part of it is just, you know,
they
students learning where all these things are, engaging them in it, and them walking through the doors. I mean, a lot of it is that the information's kind of there.
So like when you expand a course and you have the different parts, you have the little like message link there. Would that be something in programming that maybe Edison could put another sort of empty link that would go to that teacher announcement, and then it could just sort of be like a teacher resource link, and then kids would have that, like they'd see that when they actually go to get into the course.
Yeah.
Maybe just like, oh, teacher resource or whatever you want to call it, just so they, because like now I show the kids, oh, here's this pop-up, it's an announcement, you go to your announcements, it's not there, you go to all announcements, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't remember that.
Yeah.
So
Just kind of an easier way to access
make
it.
things more obvious, maybe.
Right.
Because there is good resources and stuff. There's like the plagiarism stuff comes up and all the conventions and uploading and all that kind of stuff.
So let me also just, talk about the capabilities of tutoring. And people sometimes ask me this: if you have an environment like Adam where the students are in the school, in a classroom, right? And I know Bermuda Springs has that, and South Middleton has it as well. You can set up a tutoring session for your students. So if they're all together and they're all struggling in a specific subject, you can have that teacher at 1 o'clock do a live tutoring session for your students. They are happy to do that. They'll work around your schedule. Some schools that had some Spanish students, they were able to, because it's a specific topic, and that teacher would do tutoring with them. And it can even be a repeat basis, that every Wednesday at blank o'clock, that's time for their live tutoring with that teacher. So keep that in mind when you have those groups that are in a classroom. The online teachers, absolutely. They love to. I mean, I'm speaking on behalf of them, but I've gone to Pittsburgh many times, and they love to have interaction with their students, and they want more. And I think we're struggling on both ends, that we want the students to go to tutoring, and yet they don't. And how can we get them there? It's one of the challenges.
It's always, we have on-demand tutoring, and a lot of times what that looks like is a student is struggling with a question, and they come in and ask us that question, right? It's like your standard, I'm taking a test and I want to know the answer to this question, so I'm going to just go to tutoring and ask you this question. Really, a surefire way to get us and have a productive tutoring session with an struggling online student is to contact your teacher and tell them exactly what you're having trouble with when you're learning. That's the trick, though, is getting these students to be able to self-assess themselves, to understand, I'm struggling with this concept, okay? And then you dig even deeper, they might not even be looking at the text to understand that they're struggling with this concept. I think that those are some of the real life, honest to God struggles that we're having in online learning, is that the students really are having a hard time self-assessing themselves, that they don't understand that they don't understand this concept, right? So, that might be something we should probably put into our Cyber Essentials course, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I've kind of tried to change my feedback thinking these past 2 years to put those kind of things into my feedback. So for instance, every time a student gets their Unit 1 exam, I put in a little blurb in there about self-assessment and what that looks like for online learners, right? Because really, you're on your own in an online, you can be on your own. You can be as engaged or as unengaged as you want to be in an online program. So I kind of put it on the onus on our students to say, well, okay, you need to learn how to self-assess yourself and understand that you're not understanding this. And then you need to walk through the doors to ask your teacher for help. But tutoring sessions are most productive when students come to us with, Mr. Simon, I'm struggling with lesson 14. It's about the 3 branches of government, and I really don't understand the checks and balances that the Supreme Court has on the executive branch, or vice versa. Right? So like those are those, and then I can prepare and come in with a good tutoring session that will help this student.
And if you think about in a traditional classroom, that same student would be sitting in the class, and that same student may or may not raise their hand saying, right, I'm struggling, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like those, it translates to online the same way. Like we really need to teach the students the skills to be advocates themselves.
And they're nervous. I mean, we know that, and we sense nervousness through the World Wide Web, right? When they come into the research center and they're typing to us, we know that, hey, they're coming out on a limb to come out and ask for help. And it's hard for students to do that. So please encourage your students that we are human beings and we care about them. We care about their success. We want to see them be successful in our program. And we really do have their best interests in mind. So I think, sometimes, and a lot of our learners are dealing with social anxiety issues, and social anxiety issues don't just go away because you're on a computer. Those are real life struggles with our students that are transferable to online. So.
What other questions? Yeah, Carol.
I have a funny comment.
Okay.
Okay. You know me. I
know.
kind of do funny things sometimes.
It's all right, Carol.
Okay,
You're among
so
friends.
there was this little kid who came into my office and he said, I don't like this online learning. He's a middle schooler. I said, why not? And he said, well, on Facebook, how if it's your birthday, you click it and all of a sudden things go off and there's a yay, yay, there's clapping. There's none of that in here. And I was like,
Couldn't agree with him.
whoa, like,
Thought about
this is a kid. They need the reinforcement. They need the bells and whistles. They need the happy little balloons going off. And they don't get any of that.
Yeah.
And there are teachers that do that, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are tons of teachers who do that.
Yeah.
In the messages.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the
Yes.
message.
Exactly.
I actually thought about doing something like that. We have like reports, like student progress reports and things like that. I don't know if anybody's familiar with our reporting system too.
Well, we use Genius, but yeah.
And some of that information and data is accurate. But how cool would it be to on Skype when it reminds you that, hey, it's so and so's birthday or something like that? Like how cool would it be if we had some sort of system that said, hey, it's this student's birthday. We could send them like a card or something like that.
Right.
All those little things. It's like
not a quiz.
It's like the
Do this quiz. It's your birthday.
We've started sending out newsletters and things like that. We're trying to get more students involved. So if you have students that have something to say, let them reach out to me and we'll get them on the newsletter to put stuff out there for students. And we do it anonymously. So yeah, how cool would that be?
And, I mean, we send a lot of progress reports, but we don't send any congratulations, you got an 80,
Right.
And I think that
I think some advisors
That goes a
do.
long way.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Enforcement.
And Carol, you're unique. Well, you're unique no matter what. We know, but you're a principal. Like you are running a school and teachers and the online program. That's difficult, and that's the challenge of this. All of you have a bunch of other jobs to do besides just online learning, and it gets challenging unto itself. I'm wondering what we could build into the system. Because I tell you, if Facebook didn't remind me of people's birthdays, I wouldn't remember them. I completely rely on that now. So, what other questions? We want to continue to help you in any way we can. So your feedback and your questions are really valuable. That's how we build new features in around struggling learners, because we are going to move on. Okay.
I'd like
Yes.
to have a question. Could you give me a list of requirements that a student needs to do for, I'm talking about the conference. If you want students to come to a panel. Yeah, can you give me?
I'll put together something. We didn't get that detailed, but we can.
Okay.
Do you need what time they're supposed to be at the panel and what would be expected?
What they are expected to do.
Yes.
And perks.
Yeah, I could put that into a document. I mean, we put it in an email, but we can just put it separate that you could forward on. Yeah, I mean, really what we're going to do, what I'm envisioning, and this is our first year doing this, so I'm making it up as we go, but I envision that my team will put together some questions that we will prep the students. They'll get those questions ahead of time, but we also want to build an audience participation. So they know that they're going to be asked these questions. Aaron will be our moderator. He's just been voluntold. And like he would have done anyway, because you're our MC.
Absolutely.
So Aaron will ask the questions, but we'll also want you guys to ask questions of the students. But being students, we will want to make sure they're prepped, because we don't want them being nervous. But like I said, the perks, they're just going to sit in, on a stage, have questions asked about being a student, and I'll come, like I said, I'll come with this question, we just haven't got that far yet. And then, you know, they'll have access to all of our food events, because everybody likes food, and their families will let them have access to the food. And they get the overnight stay and the 4 water park tickets. But it will only be Thursday night only. They don't get Wednesday night and Thursday night, just Thursday night only. But we do need to get them registered, because registration cuts off February 16th, even for the student panel. So I can put that together in a document for you guys.
That's good.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it'll be fun. I mean, Kalahari is expensive. It is not for the average family around here can afford it. And if it wasn't for the Kalahari, my kids would never be able to go there, because it's $300 a night, and that's not on the weekend. It's crazy. So I think this is such a neat experience for kids, and that's why I wanted to bring them in, because it's a family place. So yeah, we can do that. And the age, we're looking for all age groups. It'd be nice to have, but they need to be comfortable being in front of an audience. That's key. So we don't want anybody getting up there and then freezing up. Same scenario for the online teachers. It's pretty harmless.
So I've sent Brian a help document to show how students can get to the help links that we do have in our system.
Okay.
So we do have like a list of how to access the research center, how to get to where you want to go,
Okay.
and how to start your courses. So he has that.
Okay. So why don't we move on to question and answer portion? And we know that, you know, Jen had brought the question to us of, you know, when we have new schools join, one of the challenges, all of you know, is figuring out an attendance policy that works for your school. And we have not had a meeting that we've not talked about attendance, so it's always a topic. It's always almost like a puzzle to solve. And so newer schools that join us really would like to see who feels they've ironed it out, that they've got a pretty smooth working attendance scenario that they could share. I know some of you do. So don't look away as I'm looking around the room or looking at you. Who has something they could share? Adam.
I'm not going to say ours is perfect by any means, but if we can get that straightened out with the submit date, it'll definitely help us. But what I love about Susquehanna's attendance policy is that it's individualized to the student. We don't have a box number that every kid has to meet, because these classes are not all the same. An elective course has 16 lessons or 21 versus 48 for a competency-based core class. So what we do as far as the individualized, we require, if it's a core class, 1 lesson per school day. So basically, I have to, as the advisor, go in, look at each kid's classes that they're assigned to, and come up with their number that they have to hit in, say, a 5-day week. So if a kid has 5 core classes and that's it, it's 25 lessons a week. If they've got 5 core classes and an elective that's 16 lessons, we have a formula which I can't spit out off the top of my head, but it's like 3 lessons a week then. So it'd be 28 for a 5-day week. And we break it down when the kids enroll as part of that orientation. This is what it is for a 5-day week. This is what it is for a 4-day week. If we have a week where it's only 2 days, I'll email you as the advisor, this is your number. And basically we go by that report where I put in Monday through Sunday, and you have to hit that number. If you're short, then you start getting absences, where if it's 1 lesson short, like if their number's 25 and they hit 24, we don't give them an absence, but we keep that in mind for, say, future weeks. And I talk to them individually, like, you can't just keep being 1 lesson short. You will, fall behind. But say if they're 25 lessons, they hit 20, that's 1 day's absence. And then we basically move forward. If they have 2 weeks in a row where they're short lessons, I pull them into the cyber classroom to get caught up, and that's non-negotiable. If I call them and say, you're coming in, you got to come in.
And what if they don't?
If they don't, then we start contacting parents about removal from the cyber program. We have not had a student flat out refuse. We've had some that are trying to stay out. But I mean, our policy is that if you refuse to come in and you continuously fall behind, you'll be removed from cyber and enrolled back into the brick and mortar.
And Susquehanna is okay with I'm stating this as a statement, but also asking because I kind of know a little too. If that means that the student then says, see ya, I'm going to PA Cyber, Susquehanna says, see ya.
Yeah.
Because this is your program. This is your school's name tied to what you're doing. And you don't want your name tarnished because the student is trying to work the system or the parents are trying to work the system. So they're okay with saying, okay, then go. But we'll see you in a couple months because they always come back. Who else can share? And the challenge with attendance is that it is, everybody kind of has it different, and it's a matter of finding what works for you. Carol, do you have, or go ahead.
I have a question on that. What do you do for kids who, let's say they start 5 weeks in, they just came to your district 5 weeks in, they're carrying 8 unexcused days from their previous school. What do you do as far as Pennsylvania attendance policy? Do you make them go medical like after their first 2? Do you put them on like, how do we account for those? Like, we have a kid who was absent the majority of the first marking period, then enrolled second for ours. Like, what do you guys do with those kind of situations?
I can't speak on, say, the Pennsylvania requirements because I just don't know that side of it. That would be our administrator. But one thing we really push the kids is that if you're not coming in the first 2 weeks of a marking period, it's coming from a different cyber, it's a little different. We'll try to get you in. But if it's like a brick and mortar kid who wants to go cyber, we push for those first 2 weeks of a quarter. And if you don't hit that deadline, we're going to be like, unless you have extenuating circumstances, we're going to push you into the next quarter. Because we just had a kid this week put in an application and the parents are like, we want to start immediately. We're like, we got 3 weeks left of the quarter. We can't start you.
Yeah.
We'll start you quarter 3 if you meet our requirements. But yeah, as far as if they have to come in from an outside one and they've already got the 8 absences.
That's what we're trying to figure out now. Like, does brick and mortar attendance come into cyber when they start, or do they start clean? And that's sort of the question we're trying to tackle right now.
They keep whatever they had if they went from our building to, or even if they transferred somewhere else, whatever their attendance was up to the time they start our cyber program, that's what it is.
So they're on doctor's notice.
Yep.
Could be.
I've had kids start second marking period who are already on doctor's notice.
I'm pretty sure that's how we do it at Susquehanna. I mean, I know the kids that go from our brick and mortar building in to the cyber, they keep their attendance record. It's the outside ones that I couldn't vote on.
Ran into a problem doing it with the number of lessons, how many days. I mean, the first year we did it that way, we had kids getting 3 days in 1 week just because they didn't do lessons. So now what we do is if they don't meet their lesson count, we charge them 1 day unexcused absence for the entire week. And then they have to submit an excuse for that. And then we keep track. So I understand it's only 1 day, but if they're 3 weeks, they accumulate 3, it kicks in anyways. But we found that easier to track rather than going the number of lessons that they complete. In 1 week, a kid could get 5 absences if they don't do anything. We were running circles and, sending letters out. And so now that's how we do it. We just charge them 1 day. And then we also say you have to come in if you're behind, or you have a chance to make it up till Wednesday. If you make it up, you don't have to come in. If you don't make it up, you come in. But an excuse still needs to come with it.
Does anybody let students make stuff up over the weekends and count that as through the weekday?
Our policy is from Monday at 12:01 a.m. till Sunday night at 11:59 when the system rolls over. And I've got kids that literally will not do a single lesson until Sunday morning, and then they work all day and they hit their numbers. And we tell them, like, this is a bad policy because what happens if your internet goes down? Because we have run into those. The kids have gotten 4 or 5 unexcused absences. Now we'll take a parent's note and give them excused then. But yeah, we have a lot of truancy elimination plans. Not a lot, but more than a few where the kid gets 3 in 1 week. And then the next week it's okay, but then it's 3 more the week after. So,
What do you guys do for TEPS, for the truancy elimination plan?
I know that we have a very thorough document that we have to sit down. Preferably the parents get notified that there's a truancy elimination meeting. If they can't make it, and then it's just myself and the administration, strengths, weaknesses, this is how it can be fixed. Hopefully the parent and the student can be there. If they are, where can you improve? Where can we better support you? Document it all, and then move forward with a set outline goal sheet where you need to be at this goal moving forward. If you don't, then the truancy elimination will move towards removing you from the program and back into the.
What other questions do you have? Did that help?
That was really helpful.
Okay, good.
Because we have currently a policy very similar to that, but the counting only one absence per week, I think, will be very helpful when we have students who are only working in like one course, you know, as opposed to all of their courses. They're the same.
And we run into the non-attendance versus the attendance, because we have some part-time students that come into the building and then they also go online. We just say, if you're in the building, your attendance is taken in the building, whether it be one class. If it's one class, they come in, their attendance is based off of whether or not they show up into the brick and mortar school. They could be behind online, but their attendance is taken, and that cut down on a lot of logistical nightmares that used to come up with kids with lessons. We just made it blanket. If you come into the high school, your attendance is taken there. If you're all online, you don't make your lessons, you get 1 day. They get 10 parental notes. They utilize those. Then everything else falls right in line.
Yeah, we have blended learners that are taking 1 or 2 cybers, or only 1 brick and mortar class and 6 cybers. If they come in, then it's counted.
We're doing the same thing. Same with VOTEC. If they show up at VOTEC, they're counted for the day.
Yeah, our attendance for is just for the full-time cybers if they don't hit that lesson count. But if they have anything in the building, as long as they come in, or if they don't hit the lesson count, but they've come in and attempted to work in the cyber classroom, we hold that, you know, take that into account as well. So,
How many blended do you have at Northern? General ballpark.
Probably 30, 35, thereabouts. And then probably 40, 45 full-time that don't come in.
What other questions do you guys have for each other? This is for you.
I could share what I do.
Please do, Carol.
It's very, very unusual, very unusual. Because I have 8 schools that I deal with, and I have 12 counselors that I deal with. There's a whole lot of absences that I would have to be accounting for, and it's a lot of detail. And with my lack of staff, what the pupil service director said was he's going to separate absences from my job, so that everyone who goes into the online school is present every day, except if they are sick. And if they're sick, then they'll send a note to me, and then I give them completed lesson tracking days. So I have a whole different system. So I give them an allowance of 6 lessons. You know, if they're a full-time, it's 6 times 5 days. So if they're a full-time, there's 6 courses that they take. I give them a 1-day bereavement kind of, or 1 day a leaved for that week. So instead of having 30 required that week, they have 24 required that week. Okay, so that's if they are absent, and then I send that absent note to the school. The school goes on to the eSchool platform, and then they put an approved absent day on that record, the student record. But I don't deal with it at all. Then I have my own tracking system with my own spreadsheet, and they have to have the required amount is whatever amount of courses they take is multiplied by 5 days, and that's the required amount of lessons that week. So if they have 3 courses, they have to do 15 a week. If they have 4 courses, then they have to do 4 times 5 is 20 a week, right? So I have a completed lesson tracking system. And therefore, I don't have to deal with TEP forms. I don't have to deal with, any of those absent related things. This is a lot of work though, because, if they don't do anything, they get 3 demerits. I have demerits then assigned if they don't do the work they're supposed to do and get the amount that's required. So I give them 7 full days it's a calendar week, so it's from Sunday to Saturday. And then we run the report the next Monday for the previous week. So then they have to have that many required lessons. And let's say it's a 6, if they have 6 courses, then they have 30 to do. I have a system where if they get up to 3 demerits a week if they didn't have what is required for that week. And then once they get to 10 demerits, they get a letter. If they get to 15 demerits, they have a meeting. If they get to 20, they have a meeting and a letter. And if they get 25 is a meeting letter, and 30 is a meeting letter and back to the schools, if the school will take them. So, the best part about this is that the counselors and the principals who send the students are holding the students accountable. So they are supporting us in this. So every week, like for example, I got the report from, what's today, Tuesday. I got the report from yesterday. I assigned the demerits. I send it to Shane and Tony. Shane and Tony are advisors for these kids. Send it to the counselors and the kids, and those kids are given notice that they have a certain amount of demerits then for the week. And then I put it on my spreadsheet, and then I send out all the letters. And then I have the meetings with Shane at my school.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's like my program then. It's not anything to do with the absences. So that's what that's about.
Thank you for sharing, Carol.
Oh, sure.
Anything else for the group?
I just have a question about Brian's trainings. Are they like something that we can access after the fact, or it's only a live training and that's it? 'Cause I feel like you put that out, but I don't have it anywhere readily accessible.
We've recorded them. I guess we just have to figure out.
Put them into a Google.
Put them into a Google
Yeah.
and we'll send it out. Okay.
Yeah, and please come to them. We thought that nobody was coming to them, and we found out that quite a few people were watching the recorded session, which is great. We are just trying to get training to you whatever way we can, and we're trying to do kind of what we call just-in-time training by picking some topics. If you would like to see, receive some live training like those webinars, and you have a topic, please let Brian know. Because we bill it out for the whole year, but we left the other half of the year, we're repeating what we did, knowing that new topics would come up. So we're looking for some new topics, or we'll just repeat what we've already done. But please, let them know.
If you have any ideas, let me know. Scraping the bottom of the barrel now.
All right, I have updated under, Brian, if you can click back on PAEF 2018. I have updated that with all the links that you will need. I've updated the registration, model school, student presenters, and online teacher panel. So that's where you can go to fill out the forms. We will put them in an email, but just know they're here in Agenda Man as well. And all of those are live links. They'll take you right to the forms that we have available. All right, Carol, are you going to Kalahari this year? Are you allowed?
I am allowed.
What about Tony? Because she could be an online teacher.
She is allowed to, but we can't go online yet until it's approved by our district.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Do you
they
think
didn't approve it yet.
Could she be an online teacher, and that could help them approve it?
Yes, but they didn't approve us going yet.
Okay.
So everything.
Yeah.
I think it will happen.
The bureaucracy, yeah. I was just hoping, like, maybe if that was, if you need my help, I could, tell Norm, hey, we're really hoping Tony could be one on our panel. Let me know if you need
Yeah.
help.
I'll have Tony send it this week.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
send it over this
I mean,
week.
she's been doing this for many, many years, so she would be a good
She would be
resource.
really good.
Yeah. And most of the schools here had her as an online teacher, so. Okay. I'm glad you can come this year.
Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, any other questions for the group? Yes.
Just kind of following the discussion that was before, I was just curious if anybody else does accountability that's not based on attendance in their district.
Like what?
Carol,
Okay.
like Middletown, like our attendance is just based on logins, not on how many assessments or whatever. So
I think that we're doing accountability based on, we have like a full-time students, 25 assignments, just to kind of make it less of a formulaic, like I can't figure this out.
Right.
That's separate from our attendance policy, even though the attendance policy is still 5 assignments equals 1 day.
Yeah.
And we've already pulled kids back and said, you're not meeting our progress, and we think that it's time for you to come back to the building.
Right.
So I think we hold them to the same, that accountability standard based on the number of assignments is the same that we use for attendance, even though we're rethinking using it for attendance.
Yeah. Yeah, we've pulled kids back too, just because they haven't made sufficient progress, but we don't have like a formal demerit system or anything like that where we're actually sort of tracking things that way, which is something I'd like to develop for us so that we have something more concrete to say, like, well, we told you this is what you needed to do, and we supported you in doing this, and here's what happened, and now you're coming back or whatever.
Anyone's more than 3 lessons behind, they're required to come in a day on a Wednesday. And if they don't come in, we give them 3 strikes a marking period. If they refuse to come in, they have till Wednesday to make up their work. If they don't make it up by Wednesday, they're required to come in. If they refuse to come in 3 times in the marking period, we tell them you must return.
Do you have that in
The
writing?
3
That
strike.
you can email, share?
Yeah, I
Yeah?
do actually.
Okay.
It's part of our handbook.
We're a blend of both. Like we're in Adam's world and we're in your world. It really depends on the student. And some lesson counts work for some students. Some is just log in. They'll make it up later. I don't know. The only time we get looked at is when there's a student with over 10. That's when we get questioned. And then Holly and I have to decide what we're going to do with that individual. But we go back and forth. It really is individualized.
Would it be helpful to have this as a breakout session at PAEF with the requirement that you must bring a copy of your attendance policy with you to share? Would that be beneficial? Even though we just spent time this group, but remember we're bigger than just this group. Would that be helpful?
Accountability
Assignments as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Would that be something, a breakout session that some of you would find beneficial?
Goal to share them with each other?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
copies, hard copies, then we would have to print out like 50 copies or something?
Or it's uploaded to our event force website.
Build
that,
a Google Doc?
Yeah, exactly. We electronically just make more
I don't
sense.
want
But somehow in there we would have to let people know, like we could see who signed up and say, okay, here's some homework. Be prepared to share your attendance policy. Drop it here in a Google Doc, or our events force website has some great capabilities too. So I think that people can choose to come, but since it's a topic, and when I talk to the other IU partners, it's a topic on every one of their networking meetings every month as well. So it's something people are always asking questions about.
We had a breakout session about it last year.
We did. And the year before, because I ran one of them. It's a very hungover crowd. It was the night, the time we had the bowl. Everybody was really not happy the next day. All right, well, continue to talk amongst yourself. Anybody have last minute questions for the group while you have their attention? If not, yes, Jen.
Just thinking about that whole social emotional component that I feel like I talk about every time I'm here. If we could have a session, considering that it would be far more than just us, a breakout session at PAEF, I think that would be amazing. You know, we're doing a couple of things to try to address it, but you know, I think more so that's our greatest challenge than even struggling learners, but that social emotional component, because we have so many students who are taking cyber courses to avoid social situations at school.
So I guess what we would want to do is maybe tap into some guidance counselors.
I was only listening halfway.
Nice. Nice. She was asking, like what we would kind of have to have a little bit of a presentation, then have people talk about it, but she was asking for ideas about how schools are addressing the social emotional aspect of their online learners. You know, what are they doing to address that component? Because they're online learners. Some of them are online learners for a reason. It has to do with social emotional.
Well, we used to have kids come in after school before we had an advisor partner. So I would provide, when it was just me, I would provide after school, we call it COLA meetings. And it was time for me to not just talk about school stuff. It was just time for me to talk about how are things with your child or with your life. And it was very informal, but I felt like I was more connected with my kids before I had an outside advisor, which is great for me now in different ways, but I'm not so good at it right now of keeping connected now that I'm removed a little bit from my advisor full-time role. It might be nice to even do it on a digital platform, almost sending like a form out and checking in, you know, maybe like a scaled form, like a Google form, and then trying to get kids feedback every 2 weeks on the same questions and see almost where they're measuring each week, where they're reporting, you know, I'm a 5, I'm feeling great, or 1, or where are the issues. And then,
Jen, I don't know if anybody's solved this question. It's part of the challenge. You know, I think
like I'll reach out to some of my
think about it. And our
kids.
counselors have been talking about whether it's in the works that we'll be offering a group for our 9th and 10th graders, and we have yet to have a counselor who will offer to pick up 11th and 12th. But I do think that having our COLA students come to group, whether it be during the school day or after the school day, I think may be a challenge, you know, that I'm anticipating.
Right.
So what else, you know, what is anyone else doing? What else is there to do?
I don't know if anybody else is.
The number of students that we have in this program, because they are trying to avoid what most of us would consider experiences that will strengthen them and, you know, rites of passage to help them become functioning adults, they're avoiding them, and they're not going to have those experiences. And so, you know, thinking long term and big picture, it's kind of scary.
We still offer our SAP services. We have a lot of kids that are in SAP in our SAP program already that move to our online, and they can continue to come in, receive the individual counseling. And that's been helpful, having our own teachers, because we can make our teachers aware of those needs and those issues. So those teachers that I'm in the building with can be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what she's putting in her writing. And so that's been helpful, because we've sort of brought it all in-house so we could still communicate effectively as a SAP team and with the teachers that they have. And we have a good number of kids that still come in like their regular student for their weekly sessions. So that's been helpful for us.
Do you link your counselors as advisors to each of your students? Because I know we do that with our counselors. They're linked as advisors to each of their students. So our counselors are broken down by grade level. So our grade level 11th grade counselor has all access to the kids online, and I know he monitors it every week. He goes in and then touches base if there's any concerns.
just academic concerns.
Yeah, that's academic, but in order to go online, we often send the kids through our counselors first.
Yeah.
And then if there's issues for reasons to go online, anxiety or mental health, they're aware of those, and then they touch base with them throughout.
That's how our process
I don't
works.
think
They
there's
start
any.
They start in our offices, and then goes out. We know why they're there, but the upkeep
Yeah.
of them, if they're not already in outpatient or something, it's kind of like, oh, you're so dysfunctional. Why aren't you doing your work? Like,
And they don't want to come
It's
back
hard.
to school. A lot of those kids,
No, they don't wanna
they
come in.
don't want anywhere near that building.
we have Nyla there every Wednesday from 9 to 3, and I would say she probably sees the same amount of kids as I used to see on a Wednesday afternoon at 2:30. We offer it. She emails it. It's in her reminders every Wednesday. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Come in. They don't come in. So unless we block them, like one school presented on before, when they block their system until we see you, well, then we'll unblock you. But we have a small group, and I think that would be a hard thing to manage. And with larger populations that would be really hard unless you have somebody really watching. And if they're blocked, do they really care? Like,
Some of them not.
I don't care. I'm blocked.
You did it.
You did it. Right.
And that's the beauty of this system with the 2 advisors sending directly to the counselors. You know, this student has this many demerits and has accomplished this many out of 30 completed lessons this week. So far, they have this many demerits to date. You know, so and then the counselor sometimes emails back with, "Have you gotten in touch? This mother has a new address, or this student has a new phone number," and that's really valuable because we don't know sometimes. I get a lot of answering machine messages when I call. So, but I do like the advisor reaching out and then the counselors involved.
We get a
I
lot
think
of
the counselor's
information.
really key.
We get a lot of information on the excuses of why they're not.
Oh.
You know, if you look at those 90% of the time, if they're having issues at home or in placement or sick, you can get a
Or
lot
arrested.
of information off that. You
This
know,
one boy
family
was
death.
just arrested this week, and he says, "I'm still doing my work." Okay.
So anytime,
Well, where you're
of course,
doing
we
your
get
work.
something that brings notice, we would send it to their counselor. Once again, just keep them in the loop.
Mhm. Yeah, the counselors are key. We have a lot of situations this year with students in emotional duress.
Okay.
What do you do with workload for students in emotional distress? If they're in placement and, you know, what,
Count the completed lesson tracking for them.
okay.
We have a student
So
right
you
now who's
adjust
in
it.
placement that we're going down to see on Friday and provide equipment and whatnot. And we have modified graduation requirements for that student and are just asking that they complete 2 core courses. And being in therapy 6 hours a day
You know how much
and how
time.
intense that will be, we'll be amazed if the student's able to get through 2 core courses. But we're just gonna take it.
Yeah, we've had a girl in now, and she's been doing pretty well. She's been in for the last 4 months and the last month of last year, and she's probably completed her normal coursework. I guess it depends on the intensity of the program, but it's been nice because the facility's like, this is awesome. Like, she can work on it here, and then so their educational component is still on our plate. So they like it, and their counselors they'll contact me. Hey, they did this many lessons, which is it's nice.
We extend due dates too,
Mhm.
which gets a little difficult, because then the last marking period you can't extend. It's just like, okay, this one's a shortened one then.
And the next one.
Right.
And they start already 2 weeks behind.
I'm sure having summer camps with kids, social skills.
Any other questions? You guys are like, I don't want to stop the conversation.
It's a good thing you only
This is what
have
happens
food.
when
There's
you
more
get
food. Please,
Like,
please
I
help
think it
us
was
out.
the food.
Please keep coming to our meeting. The more we come, the more conversations we have, the deeper our discussions, all of that. You guys are here to help each other. That's part of the beauty of our consortium, is that you're not reinventing the wheel. You can lean on each other, ask questions, pick brains, all of that. So please keep coming every month and eat some food. And first of all, we need to thank Nyla and Michelle, because they're the ones that set it up. And made it look beautiful. So thank you, ladies, because you really did a fantastic job. You can tell I have a new staff on a level of quality that we've elevated. You should see our birthday presents on this team have gotten much higher. Yeah. Suddenly we're getting higher quality birthday presents too. Yes. So please hang out, keep talking. We have the room the rest of the afternoon, and eat some food. And our next meeting is on a Tuesday again, January 23rd. So I hope to see you. Now,
Friday.
But just to let you guys know, we're working with West Shore to set up like an evening event for their online learners to get some kind of wraparound services and to get some in-depth training, and we're going to provide food. So hopefully we could report out on that at the next meeting. I don't remember what date we picked. Hopefully not the 22nd.
You're gonna get us out of the Juniata room next time too and back in
Is
here?
it in the Juniata room?
I saw that.
Yeah, it does say Juniata. It all depends if this room opens up.
I will be checking just for you.
Let's open it up.
But anyway, hopefully maybe Jen and Chris, we could talk about how that went at the next meeting. All right, eat some food, please.
Please, please, please.
March 22nd. Correct.
It's a long process.
Yeah, the parents, whoever must bring them. We're not running bands, we're not canceling students, we're not in charge of students. The parent must chaperone them or guardian at all times and be responsible for them. So, yeah.
You too. Merry Christmas. Everybody I said the same. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
How do you do?
Leave you hanging, huh?
Is it? Oh, good. Yeah, yeah, and like I said, for Thursday, if they're there for lunch, they can, it's a buffet, so they can help themselves to lunch. We can even breakfast. The next day, they can come to breakfast. But we're not providing dinner,
Our math teacher
so that's on their own.
is in-house too.
Because we're not providing dinner for anybody. But they'll, with their hotel and come to water park tickets.
No.
I filled something out on the registration. I don't know if it was the online teacher mail, but I don't know if I signed up for a breakout session, but that's in there, intended to be on that teacher.
Okay, so
For a while.